Welcome to Innovate presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today we're delighted to have our guest, Jordan Gitterman, who is the founder and CEO of Item Banc. I like the name there, Jordan. I want to say thank you for joining us on Entrepreneurs in Tech, and the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself and provide us some insights about your background and expertise before we dive into it.
Sure, and to clarify, I have a partner in Item Bank, and actually most of the intellectual property of what we're doing is hers. And we alternately call each other the CEO. We're just hand in hand running things together. Item Bank is, after many years, we're actually still a startup, but I can let you direct me. Ask me questions. What do you think the audience wants to hear? My background, I'll be glad to talk about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the as an entrepreneur, and as we always, most of our guests, I would say, if not even all of them, entrepreneurs in tech, and just like yourself, and their story and their path, and what they're looking to contribute and change in humanity, and their vision is always very intriguing, very insightful, and important for everybody. And that's why we're here with you. So we could start by your background. If you could take us back a bit, maybe your teenage years, what really got you motivated to be an entrepreneur, to start your own thing, to get you into that path, and then maybe we'll take it to the more, we dive into the tech field.
Well, my father owned bars and restaurants. His dad was a small business owner, and as a kid, I had jobs, but I always saw myself as an entrepreneur. Years ago, there was this guy. His last name was Beckley, and he used to do those real estate things. Buy no money down and real estate, and that really caught my eye. And eventually, I got into real estate. I was in real estate for many years, and then around 2005 or six. I experienced the conditions that many of you may have seen in a movie called The Big Short. I don't know, did you happen to see it? So if anyone in the
Absolutely.
audience didn't see it, what happened was in The Big Short, there was a housing crash. And this fella was able to see in advance that this was going to happen. And around that time, I had 3 real estate offices. And one of the things I was doing was buying brownstones in Harlem, in New York City. I'm from New York. And I was buying these dilapidated, vacant brownstones. And if they weren't vacant, they had squatters in them that weren't there legally. And I was buying them for around $350,000. And then in 1 year, they went up to $1 million. And I was like, what is going on here?
Correct.
And so I was did a deep dive into the financial system and really saw that what they did was they dumped so much money into the market. All the banks had all this money, and they just put aside normal standard operating procedures. So I had, like I said, 3 real estate offices, and people are coming into my office with falsified fake appraisals, just outlandish stuff. And the banks are accepting this stuff.
To just stamp
Yeah.
it.
And these particular brownstones I was buying, they required typically a construction loan also. So you had you wanted to get the brownstone to buy a purchasing mortgage and also the money to renovate it. And they had typically, prior to this moment, a lot of restrictions on who could actually get these type of loans, because you had to have like some kind of expertise in order to renovate this brownstone. So, okay, maybe a real estate attorney they'd say, okay, or maybe, a guy that owned a construction company, they'd say, okay, a real estate professional, they would say, you qualify. Well, no, if you're just a school teacher and you had no experience renovating or anything like that, you may have difficulty getting this unless you came in with a good plan and you had a good contract already and you showed them a complete package. That was completely disregarded. They're letting anybody buy them. The prices were skyrocketed, and I, at that moment, said I did a deep dive into it, saw that we have private banks printing money like crazy, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I went on this, I'm still on this quest really to print my own money. And so at the time there was no blockchain and there was no cryptocurrencies. And so what I did was I ended up getting involved in oil and gas deals in Colorado and in Wyoming and Kansas. And initially I was just raising capital for them, and eventually I was running them basically. And these are small oil and gas deals. And from there I got involved in mining and eventually was living in Chile. I had a copper and gold mining project there. And while I was there, I was fully inundated in this project. It was like really a lot of work. But I saw Bitcoin went from $3 to $1,000 by this time, and I was keenly interested in it, fascinated by it. And I understood what Bitcoin was. I understood the distribution of Bitcoin, how it's done in a decentralized way through miners, and I won't get too into that, but definitely fascinated by it. And having a lot of difficulty though in Chile functioning, just because transferring money into Chile was a pain in the rear end. Now I'm getting robbed by the banks on the exchange rates. I'm paying them a nice fee, and it's taking 1 week to transfer my money. And I'm like, why is this the case? It says in your documents here it should take within 48 hours it ought to be transferred. But the banks apparently want to hold on to the money. I guess they're collecting lots of interest on it. And it was just really frustrating, to say the least. And the amount of time and manpower that it took to manage this little thing, because somebody now in Chile is expecting money that's not coming. And every day I'm calling up, and somebody who's working with me is calling up the bank, and the counterparty in Chile is annoyed. Like, you said you're going to have me the money by a certain date, and it's not coming. And it just was so obnoxious. There's no other word for it, because you can transfer money quickly, and you're paying a big fee now for doing it. Like at $10,000, it costs like $400, just about. Just about.
$400 for $10,000.
Yeah, because they were nearly on the exchange rates.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah,
I do 10 transfers a day.
You would never think that. I mean, it doesn't.
4K.
It doesn't appear that will be that, but that's what it was costing. And I was like, okay, I'll pay it. Just transfer the money. But they didn't. So in my mind, I just, I knew the project was a 2 or 3 year project. And I'm like, when I'm free of the project, I'm going to somehow really do a deep dive into cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And at this time, in my office in Chile, the original blockchain girl, her name is Janina Lovitz, and she was the first person, I believe, to have her identity on the blockchain. And so her name at the time was the blockchain girl. And she said, hey, I have some friends in Chile, and they're going to be where your office is in Vina del Mar. Have them, why don't you entertain them? Say hello to them. They're interested in your mining project. I told them about it. So they came up and opened my eyes to something called tokenization, which there was no terminology like today called real world asset tokenization, one of the biggest sectors now in the blockchain and technology areas. So there's no vocabulary or anything, and they explained that to me, and I was like, wow, completely fascinated by it, and came up with the idea of tokenizing the barter industry in the United States. And so barter exchanges started in the United States about 55 years ago. They've always had virtual currencies, and I kind of viewed them as banks. They do a lot of underhanded things, in my opinion. And I consequently, I was always a barterer. I traded my car for 2 motorcycles, 1 piece of real estate for another, but I never went through the exchanges because I didn't like or trust them. But I said, you know what, if you put all these inventories on the blockchain that are in the barter exchange, and you can make them visible and transparent to everybody, they're time stamped, blockchain's immutable. And also the barter currency themselves, they were put on the blockchain. You could follow them out. You could follow them. Because in my opinion, the owners of a barter exchange, what they would do is just, They would shelf inventory, like if they wanted to buy a car, for example, they wouldn't show anybody it. They would buy it or acquire it somehow. And who knows what they were doing with the currency itself. They could just create more, and it wasn't transparent. And that's the quest I've been on really since. And I came to Florida after Chile. I met a gentleman who tokenized a barter currency. Started to work with him. It was wild, but really wild. At the time, Bitcoin was on TV virtually every night. So everybody, it was like free advertising for us. And we had this barter currency that didn't, in my opinion, have proper governance on it, but I was still doing it. And we would go to like a barter exchange show, and people were accepting it. And so you can acquire all kinds of stuff with this barter currency. And the gentleman that had founded it and started it, I was like, right at this particular time, there was Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe Dash that had liquidity and were on the market. And it was really exciting that we have a little liquidity actually for hard goods and for services and stuff. People will trade for our barter currency. But if we don't get our ship in order, have a proper governance, there's like thousands of other cryptocurrencies you can see on the horizon coming. And this gentleman did not want to do that. I even had an investor who wanted to put $2 million into it and, obviously have equity in it and put governance in on it. And the founder didn't want to do it. And I was a little bit upset because I knew that I couldn't continue to work there under these circumstances. And just at that time, I met my current partner, Virginia Robinson. And she was introduced to me for somebody in a barter world. And, we had a great conversation, and I was happy to meet her. But in my back of my mind, I'm like, I'm wondering why this gentleman really introduced us. Couldn't figure it out really. Although she was a great contact, but I thought there was more to it. And just as we were ready to hang up, she goes, "Hey, I had this treatise I wrote on valuations, on valuing things, and that treatise today is a book called The Language of Value." So I read it, and the next day I called her up and said, "Well, we have to take this project that she was working on since the 1990s, actually, and put it on the blockchain." And so we've had a lot of ups and downs. We've been doing that. There's a lot of regulatory ups and downs, as you probably know about, your audience may know about. And on the positive side of things, we didn't really have enough tools to do what we want to do. But we've now have them finally in AI, in blockchain infrastructure. There were only a certain amount of wallets. They only had very few features today. There's many wallets, many features, many different blockchains. And so currently we started tokenizing businesses' inventories, and we're doing it on the blockchain now. And that goes into, the project has many different steps, but it goes into actually using eventually the tokenized current inventories even as a currency eventually. At this point though, let's regroup and ask me some questions. And
Interesting. I'm surprised you didn't get into the business that your dad was in, your father, the bar and restaurant, which is yes, a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, but sometimes could be extremely lucrative. It depends. But you were a school teacher, then from there you went into mining in
no,
Chile. Well, real estate, then
yeah,
mining, then crypto. I mean, definitely a true entrepreneur. You're not afraid to get to dive into the mud, and not even get your feet wet. No, you went beyond anything. You went all the way in.
yes, and I'm somewhat of a risk taker, and believe me, I paid a price for those risks sometimes. But
Always,
you
always,
get
yes.
rewarded
There's a
for it
price.
too. But no, I like, for example, in Chile, I expect it to be really very much in an administrative owner of a mining project. And we had people that were going to be on site. Before you know it, I'm on site, on these mines. They're 5 hours away from our office. And
What
so
would get you in a foreign country? I don't know if you speak the language. You speak Latin,
I speak
Spanish,
some
or
Spanish, but what got me there were several things. One of them was Chile at the time was very much touted as a free country. And you get there and you find out it isn't nearly as free as you expect. And I was, prior to being in Chile, I was in other mining projects. But this particular project, I was in Chile for years now. I had my eye on it. I liked it. And so the opportunity arose to go down there and to become a partner in the project. And we had a group that was going to also back us substantially financially. And they put up deposits on some things, and then they just like disappeared. It was really very strange. Lost our deposits, so it was very strange. So I went down there without them. But yeah, things happen. But that's what
Well,
brought me to Chile. I will say that from a financial standpoint in Chile, it was the project didn't do exactly what it wanted it to do. It wasn't a total loss or anything, but it just became not worth it to me. But it was great to get out of the country. It's great to see something else,
you learn about other cultures.
learn about the cultures. But I learned the information I know now that put me in this situation that I'm doing, this stuff I'm doing, and now that this journey had to take place. So otherwise, I would never put all the pieces that are put together. It's funny because I don't like puzzles, but there's something in the tech world called composability. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but to
Yeah.
the audience, it typically refers to taking different technologies, putting them together to get the result you want. And what I think I've been able to do is I'm on the process of doing it anyway, is putting these different technologies together, for example, AI, blockchain, use them in a certain fashion to solve certain societal problems, which I think will do, and hopefully be very successful doing it. And success will be measured in hopefully the amount of users we have and what we're doing.
Well, all your focus seems like these days on two things: Item Bank, and also these big events that you've been organizing. The IOU, the ecosystem, or should I say the Crypto Connect Event Expo also?
Yeah,
Or
just because you mentioned IOU is
yeah,
it's actually a separate project from Item Bank.
yeah.
It's really the same thing, and IOU focuses on tokenizing services. And so, for example, if you're a hair cutter, you can tokenize 10 haircuts. Go to a restaurant and say, look, I want to trade you 10 haircuts for a small party for 10 people.
Hmm.
The restaurateur says, okay, I'll take the 10 haircuts. But if he has the same hairstyle as you and I, what are you going to do with 10 tokens, right? So you could sell the tokens, trade the tokens.
So the tokens will be only usable for, let's say, use the hairdresser or the haircutter at the barbershop. They'll be only used for those to cash them in. Can they be used for something else?
Absolutely. You can redeem the tokens,
Yeah.
or I can say to
What's the value of the token? Would be is the value of what the haircut would cost, or
well, that would determine, the hair cutter can say, look, the tokens are worth $1,000 each, but nobody would accept them. Like I wouldn't trade you my car for 10 haircut tokens. But like we also have an evaluation system, which is the secret sauce, by the way, to everything that we're doing, which we'll get into. But look, if somebody is brand new to the haircutting business, right, a hairstylist, their tokens are probably not worth somebody who's been to the finest, haircutting institutions that taught them how to do haircuts and been doing it for 25 years and has a huge following of people and a successful business. Their tokens are worth more. And so with IOU, you get rated on your tokens. The issuer of the tokens gets rated similar to an Uber driver.
how
So
often do you get rated for on these tokens?
whenever they're transferred in, whenever you want to redeem them. So you go to redeem the token, right, and you're going to get a haircut. By the way, IOU, just so you know, is not functionable now, but this is the business plan. So you go and you get your hair cut. You say, "Mr. Haircutter, here's my token, cut my hair," and he does a fabulous job. You rate him, just like when you get an Uber ride, you
You
rate him
got it.
after
Got
the
it.
ride. Yeah,
You think a lot of businesses will start retail businesses, brick and mortar businesses, or others, they tokenize a lot of their transactions instead of,
I
like
do.
issue these tokens and people just come and, I don't know, buy them or.
Everything's coming in stages. This is still so in its infancy.
Because it could be the future. So there'll be no cash exchange anymore, not even credit card exchange. Everything's tokenized. Would it be a tokenized credit card?
Yeah, I also have a group on LinkedIn called the Real World Asset Tokenization Group. And I just put a post on there that 50% now of the Visa transactions are tokenized transactions
Wow.
in Europe though, not everywhere. So that's interesting. But the stock market will exist, but it will exist much differently. It'd be much more efficient. And I'll give you an interesting tidbit, right? So with this gentleman I mentioned earlier, who started the barter currency and tokenized it. So we acquired a publicly traded shell company. And so we go, okay, we want our stock certificates in hand. We were going to tokenize the stock certificates. This is 7 or 8 years ago. And it's a company that was basically, a mess, a financial mess. So we acquired, we're going to clean it up. And the stock is worth like, pennies, whatever it's worth. And the transfer agent's like, hey, I want $1,000 fee. I'll send you your stock certificates. So the stock wasn't worth $1,000. So like, why would we do that? It's not worth it. And when you have a tokenized stock market, which is in the works right now, and BlackRock, most people probably know BlackRock, announced this about 6 or 7 months ago that they were going to start to do this, along with State Street, another very large company. And they're planning for some reason to base it out of Texas. And I don't know why they picked Texas, but you're going to have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week stock market. It'll never close. And people will be able to, if they have their own tokens, they'll be able to trade their tokens whenever they want.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's we see everything happening in stages, right? The first stage to the tokenization of inventories, which is in a way probably going to be a little easier than the tokenization of just services.
That's
But
what I was gonna say. So is it more focused now, you think, on the tangible things that you would buy, but
that's
it's
what
tokenized
that's what
instead of
Item
serving?
Bank focuses on
Got it.
that.
And that's what we're gonna talk about right now.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And our initial use of the tokens is for marketing purposes. So, like I mentioned, we have a number of different hardships in this journey that we're on. But one of the major hardships, especially in the United States, is regulatory hardships. And with the Trump administration now in, and they're quite pro crypto.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that may clear up, but Trump may be gone in a couple of years, and somebody else may come in who
Say
could go
no.
back to what the Biden administration went to, which
Yeah.
they were adamantly against it. I mean, not only against crypto, but even AI. And so we are tokenizing inventories for the purpose of marketing at the moment. So
For marketing purposes, not
yes,
for transactional.
not yet. So
Yes.
but the marketing will precipitate transactions, but not the tokens won't really have anything to do with it, other than as an advertising vehicle. So if you tokenize your inventories and say, hey, I'm going to tokenize, I'm going to send it to you, it represents ownership, there's not that big of a market for it yet.
Yet.
Not that people are interested in it.
I
And
was gonna say, could Apple computers or Apple stores tokenize their product? Because they have inventory. I'm just curious. And the only way to buy this stuff through tokens, because everything's tokenized. Would that make a difference?
I'm sorry. So you're saying if they tokenize their products,
Because you're talking about product, yeah, items,
would you have to pay for it in tokens also, is what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
No.
Oh,
You could pay for it in fiat, in cash. Maybe you could pay for it in gold. Maybe, I mean, if I own tokens and let's say I have phone tokens, I have telephones, cell phones, and you walked up to me with a bag of gold and said, look, I'll trade you gold for those tokens. I could take it. It's my ownership. I own it. I can do whatever I
so
want.
when you tokenize products or items, would that create open the market more for more transaction for more business? Because now you don't need cash to buy items or product or credit card. You can use because everything's kind of tokenized, so it'll make it much easier. People from anywhere could buy things and do
That's correct.
transactions.
That's
So
correct.
would increase would kind of, how should I say, bring in more business, kind of stimulate the economy to a more higher level.
Absolutely. And especially in the case of a larger asset like real estate, for example. And people are tokenizing real estate now. A lot of people are doing it.
They are.
Yes.
Wow, so you could buy a condo, a house, a building.
Yeah, suppose you wanted to invest in a building, and you don't have all the money to invest in it, but you can buy tokens instead of shares in a company.
On your
And
own. You don't need a board of directors to approve you or nothing. If the building is tokenized, correct? Of
well,
that
in
property is tokenized.
in the tokenization process, there's smart contracts. So perhaps in the smart contract, they'll have a vetting out thing that someone may have to go through. So you may have to, I don't know, whatever that vetting process may be. But like in the case of a building, maybe they want, you'd have a certain net worth, or maybe you may have to say, I'm going to hold this for a certain period of time. All of these things are programmable in
Wow.
in smart
Tokenizing
contract.
tokenizing real estate. It's very interesting. And you've been in the real estate business. I don't know if you still are, but it's pretty interesting because anybody from anywhere in the world could invest.
That's correct.
Yes, anybody, anywhere. There's no restriction as long as they're able to buy these tokens from that property, whether
There
it's a
could still be
commercial, residential.
regulatory restriction, like
Could
SEC
be.
restriction. There could
Uh-huh.
still be an imposed restriction by the issuer.
Well, the whole crypto idea and tokenizing and all of that, it's pretty much having an open market, world market, not just the U.S. An
And we have
open
things
world market.
we have things called governments that like to interfere in these things. So, yeah, I wish they wouldn't,
So I
but
could be sitting here somewhere in Hong Kong in my office or my home, and I'll be just buying properties and buying investment properties through because they're all tokenized
that's
everywhere in the
correct.
world without me being there, knowing who's involved or not involved. Okay, I'll do my own due diligence as an investor, as a savvy token or tokenizing investor. But
So that is everything you're saying is correct. And this is all just in its infancy right now. This is
and that's what
all
Item Bank focuses on. Bring that to life. Bring that kind of world market. Oh, give the opportunity to anybody, anywhere, and anybody, anywhere in the
well,
world at
Item
any time.
Bank. We're mostly focusing on businesses' inventories. Uh,
Business inventories.
yeah, so I got
Okay.
into
Would
that.
that be in clothing, in
Sure.
tech, in anything, any inventory?
Yeah,
Could be cars.
absolutely. I mean, it could be real estate too, but when you get to certain industries, you have specific people just focusing on those industries. That we're not looking to rule the industry that industry. But nobody right now is tokenizing businesses' inventories other than, or focusing on it other than us, as
Hmm.
far as I know. And again, it's initially for marketing purposes. So you can pay, let's say we're using the Solana blockchain right now to tokenize business inventories. There's 3 million wallet holders. So you can create a token of, let's say you're a business selling wrenches, tools, wrenches, or a small hardware store, or you maybe have a couple of small hardware stores, small chain. And in the United States, your competition is Lowe's or Home Depot, which If anybody's out of this country and hasn't heard of them, this behemoth is huge hardware stores. They're also like a florist, but it's big stores, and they dominate the market here. They dominate it because we're currently in what's known as Web 2 right now, and they have locked up Web 2, meaning that they have these algorithms on the web that favor their stores. They have paid for SEO rankings, so their websites open up at the top when you go on the internet and you search for hardware. Probably Home Depot's going to show up on top. And they also have the ability to advertise even more, and a lot of that's digital advertising, like on Facebook and on Google. And so if you're a smaller chain, you're page 2, 3, or 4 on the internet, and you're not visible. But people are now using the blockchain, and it has blockchain explorers now to find information out and to find data out. So if you put a wrench in, let's say, the Solana blockchain explorer, all wrenches will show up, and they'll show up equally. There's no algorithm that's going to favor another, and there's no SEO rankings on a blockchain. And so we believe that is a great equalizer. So you had Web 1, which is initially you had a static website in the beginning. Web 2, you have websites that are interactive, but typically they use a third party a lot of times, like Amazon. Amazon many times charges 30% of a transaction.
Wow.
Right?
Wow,
So
30%.
yeah, many times, yes. And so you eliminate that when you go to Web 3, and you're able to deal on a more peer-to-peer basis.
That's why the Web3 is still being not pushed and blocked, because will eliminate a lot of these big companies' revenues.
And I think that it's just inevitable that people are going to start using it. It's just still, it's just maturing now, I believe, to the point where we can actually use it, where it has the functionality to do the different things that
Absolutely.
consumers are going to want, when they do it. I mean, still, when you go to use cryptocurrencies, it's still like clunky when you have to have a wallet, and many times there's 12 passwords, and it's a lot because we've been trained and programmed under our banking system, and that's how we know how to do that. When most people don't lose their bank card, they know how to use it. But we're coming to the point now where a lot of the clunkiness is being cleaned up, where it's being easier to use, and it's just functional.
I wonder if you could also tokenize, because you said inventory, would it work on music catalogs?
Oh, it'll work on intellectual property. It'll work on anything. It's going to work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You just have to figure out the model, how you're going to use it, what does it serve, right? So I have a colleague of mine. She tokenized the St. Regis Hotel in Aspen, Colorado, and she had a company called Solid Block, and she was tokenizing real estate. But it was a little bit early on. Even today, it's a little early on. So if you're tokenizing real estate, what is the benefit? So if the issuer today, the real benefit would be for an issuer today of these tokens who can raise their own money, and then it streamlines that process. So to set it up, it might be, I don't know how much money it would cost to set it up, but over $100,000 to set it up correctly. You have a $20 million real estate project you're selling out, and it streamlines the whole process, and offers everybody transparency, and and you can raise the capital. Well, it can bring in some liquidity, and some outside investors, like you mentioned, from all across the world. That it's an easy process, and once the tokens are set up, and if you have a smart contract in there, and there might be HOA type rules, housing association rules that can be embedded in the smart contract. Somebody can go in there, they can see it, read it all, and it's all embedded.
Do you feel a couple of years ago, everybody talking about smart contracts, about all of crypto and tokenizing, and now kind of not died down, but do you think we still infrastructurally not ready for it? It's there and it will come back, and now will be the future, but infrastructure, the infrastructure of everything is not ready. How we operate, how we transact money, banking. They say digital, but really it's not 100% digital the way we're transacting yet. It's still, there's so much involved physically, and AI is more trained and operational. Still, people have to work and look over AI and direct AI, and there's mistakes. So we are kind of getting into this whole big tech thing, but the infrastructure is not yet there. But it is going there. But how soon, how fast, and how long?
Well, it's there on certain things. So, for example, money market funds
Yeah.
have been tokenized and are being used like wildly right now, mostly on the institutional level. So, a lot of this stuff is being used on an institutional level. I think it's just about ready to be used on a more of a consumer level, and that's where we're at now. You know, just at
Amazing.
this point, there's still a lot of work to be done. It's still in its infancy, as we're saying, but it's an interesting time because one of the big problems, like I said, was regulation. It seems to have kind of cleared up, and one of the other big problems is just developing the different technologies to the point where they can be functional. And I think we're pretty much at that point now.
So Item Bank, are you guys raising money, or you pretty much just more? You don't need none of that. You and your partner on Item Bank, you kind of
No, we're
just
not raising money at the moment. We just came up with, I think, we just got the pieces to put together this marketing plan, our business plan, I should say, of what we're going to do. We are actually tokenizing businesses now. In fact, we have a group out of Nigeria that is interested in doing this, and they brought a number of businesses to us to tokenize. I think Nigeria, notwithstanding its reputation that many people feel it has, but the demographics of Nigeria make it probably the best place to do what we're doing. You have a relatively young group of people that are very technologically savvy, actually, even if they're not formally educated, they all seem to know that. The Nigerian currency is so volatile that many of them, to get out of that volatility, have already gravitated to Bitcoin and to other cryptocurrencies. The Nigerian government tried to bully their population and say, you can't do that, you can't do this. It didn't work. And so you have these free-thinking Nigerians that are doing some really interesting things. They have it's a country just being built up now, and it being built up in this particular manner, like in the digital age. So we're excited about that. And I think what we're looking to do is, because it takes time to get somebody to sell someone
absolutely.
on it, right? Especially a business owner, like, okay, and like people don't understand that the word tokenization. So we are learning ourselves how to sell it, how to communicate it. When you say tokenization, most people's heads blow up. But all tokenization is the digital representation of the item, and it can be just a digital representation of it, and it could also represent ownership of it, depending on how you structure the token. So, they're a little ahead of us in Nigeria. A similar thing happened to me in Harlem, where I was renovating these dilapidated houses. I kind of felt the best future was in the absolute worst neighborhoods where all the houses are burnt out.
Correct.
Then they're all going to be built new. They're going to be renovated.
They're worth millions of dollars now. These
Yes.
brownstones in Harlem, millions of
And
dollars.
if you had like a very rough neighborhood, but some houses were good, some weren't, and eventually you'd fix up those bad houses. The neighborhood would, but it's still a rough neighborhood. So I have a beautiful house in a rough neighborhood. So Nigeria and much of Africa And much of the so-called third world doesn't have services, and many people don't have banking. So if you don't have banking, and you could take a lot of people have smartphones, and in your smartphone you could put a cryptocurrency wallet in there. You have virtually all of the services that a bank can offer you, right out of your phone.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the palm of your hand. Absolutely. What's next for Item Bank?
So the project, this is how I see the project evolving. One is continuing to tokenize businesses. I'm leaning towards creating an affiliate marketing program because I want people to tell their friends, obviously, and also explain it to them. It's time consuming, what we're doing. And for that, they should get rewarded for doing such a thing. And so that's another thing we're looking to do right now. We need to create a dedicated platform for the tokens. We have a certain protocol. In the metadata, you want to put what's available, what price it's available, and where it's located. So from those three things, we can value tokens, which I'll get into in a moment. But you could put in your companies, the manufacturer, the merchants, contact information and stuff like that, their website. So we have a protocol that helps identify these tokens that are for business inventories. And you can imagine, like in the United States, if you go to a library, we have the Dewey Decimal System. And what does that allow you to do? It allows you to go to a library with 100,000 books and find your book. Well, if you're looking for a wrench and you're in the United States, you need to have certain pieces of metadata in there. Maybe the word wrench, hardware, and maybe you put in many other words for wrench in there too, because somebody might be Spanish, Chinese, or whatever. Or if it's tuna fish, in the United States we call it a can of tuna fish, and you go to the Caribbean where they speak English and they call it a tin of tuna fish. So that's part of the language of value, the book I told you my partner wrote. So all this stuff is in the metadata. So we have a protocol that helps you find the tokens, not just humans, but also AI. And so we have a platform there. And so, like I said, we're using Solana initially to tokenize businesses. In the future, other blockchains will be used. So there's a blockchain, let's say Ethereum. Somebody wants to tokenize on Ethereum for a reason right now, whatever that reason may be. And so we run a platform that will house all those tokens using our protocol, whether it's on Ethereum or Solana or Hedera or any other blockchain, so that they can be identified, found, and used. The other thing is I just mentioned now with certain pieces of information, and to me this is really one of the most exciting parts of our project, we can derive valuations. So we create a base of value. Mm-hmm. The base of value theoretically should be gold or silver.
Yeah.
But we don't use gold or silver. And I was in a gold business, as I told you, mining gold. The problem with gold and silver is they're both manipulated. And virtually every major bank in the United States has paid a large fine for the manipulation of gold. Our COMEX exchange out of Chicago, reportedly all the time has tremendous shortages of silver. So they're shorting silver. They don't have possession of the silver, and they're driving the price down. And from what I gather, this is being done on purpose. So what we've done it for a base of value is creating indexes of basic human need items. And those fall into 5 categories: food, clothing, shelter, medical and hygiene supplies, and also everyday plastic and paper goods like toilet paper and writing paper. And if you took this 100 same items, theoretically, in every country, you can see by the trades off of these items, the purchasing power of whatever is being traded against these different items, whether it's fiat currency or whether it's cryptocurrency or whether it's other tokens. And so at that point, when we're able to really do that on a widespread basis and many items are tokenized, at that point, and that I think will be years from now. At that point, the tokens will represent ownership. And so we foresee the Bangladesh t-shirt manufacturer, who has 1 million t-shirt tokens, each token equaling one t-shirt, for example, going to a truck manufacturer in Japan and saying, look, we're going to give you 1 million t-shirt tokens. We want 2 trucks. And the truck manufacturer is going to say, we can keep some of these t-shirt tokens, but we want to get rid of most of them. We don't need t-shirts. And they're going to go to their AI agent, which, by the way, we're selling AI agents so to help market the tokens. But they're going to take their AI agent out and say, look, we need the following different items and products. Can you trade these t-shirt tokens for them? And so let's say they need some kind of special plastic. And AI agents can come back and propose a trade for them. This X amount of this plastic for your t-shirt tokens. And they're going to press the button and say yes. And the plastic manufacturer has pressed yes. The plastic manufacturer may not be getting your t-shirt tokens. There might be 10 counterparties behind the trade, unbeknownst to these 2 parties. And the AI agent sets it all up. And that's where we see the future of commerce going.
Feel like it's more becoming a trade thing, and the items itself not being actually transported anywhere. It becomes just more trade and value and exchange.
Well, the truck manufacturer now has the plastic, let's say it's plastic tokens.
And the t-shirt manufacturer has the 2 trucks.
They do, right.
Yeah.
Who knows who has the t-shirts? Could be anybody.
That's the thing. Well,
Right.
the t-shirt could be just sitting still in the original warehouse. And
Yeah,
they
but if
being
you're gonna take those t-shirts to do probably one of 2 things, right? Either to trade them off for something else because your AI agent does that, in which case you're like they're acting like a credit almost, like you're saying,
Yes, yeah.
or you're gonna take possession of the t-shirts, right? Like the truck manufacturer might want to keep 50,000 t-shirts for themselves. They're like,
Very
what?
fascinating, this whole thing. How did you, I mean, it took you a while to learn all of this. This is pretty
Well,
insightful, I would say.
It's because I was a barter guy, like I told you about. I would never went into the barter exchanges, but I experienced this and know this. And look, a lot of it I learned from my partner Virginia Robinson, but she was also a international corporate barter trader for many years, and she had expertise in inventories and stuff like that. But there's barter principles behind this that, to me, like when I saw the blockchain and I see a barter exchange, I see a perfect match.
Yes.
The blockchain is a ledger, and where do you put your inventories? Like, how do you know what inventories you have? You have to put them on a ledger. How do you know how much money you have? You put it on a ledger. All these different things, in my opinion, would clean up the barter exchanges right away. But a lot of the companies like a barter exchange, they're hesitant and they're scared because it's a completely different business model, and you're cutting out so many layers. Like I mentioned earlier, when I wanted to get my actual stock certificates, you have a transfer agent saying, "Yeah, well, I'll give it to you for $1,000." So you're cutting that guy out. He doesn't exist anymore. In the future, you can have your own tokens in your own wallet, and you can do it now. But I'm talking about in the stock world, in the equities world, and you'll be able to trade them, without a middleman coming in and slowing it down and doing a lot of the different things that middlemen do, typically for their own self-serving benefit. So a lot of that will be cut out. And if you have a middleman that still exists, they're going to provide hopefully better services.
Jordan, what is what advice you have being an entrepreneur for other entrepreneurs who are starting out and getting involved in this world of not just crypto, tokenizing and blockchain and a world of trading, barter trading, like yourself and your partner, who still is and an expert. Would love to have her on the show one day. But what advice you'll have for these starting entrepreneurs? Could be young, could be old, doesn't matter. Age only a number. Entrepreneurship, it's something in your veins. So, like yourself, as a risk taker.
So I can tell you this. So far, this Item Banc I've been involved in it for, say, 7 or 8 years. Now, my partner, Virginia Robinson, who wrote this treatise, had started this whole idea, and it really what it comes down to is incorrect valuations. She started this in the 1990s. So it's a long process many times. We didn't have the tools, the technology to do the things we wanted.
Yeah.
The reason we're going to succeed in the end is not because we're so smart or anything, which, I like to say I'm so smart, but more than anything is persistence. So you have to be persistent, and the chances are, if you find something you really enjoy, you'll stick to it.
I think this is the key to anything. You're right. Persistence, yeah. Persistent. It doesn't matter what type of venture or business or line of business or field you entering or getting into.
And
I agree.
If you enjoy what you're doing, because you're gonna get knocked down in this world many times. You just keep coming back, because at least you enjoy doing what you're doing. So I got knocked down. I'll try this way. Maybe I'll succeed, or this way. But if you don't like what you're doing and you get knocked down, it's kind of tough. So the best thing to do is, if you can, find something that you sincerely enjoy, and do it. I couldn't have told you when I, led my life, did the things I did. I got out of a pretty good real estate business I had, because
seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw something and I wanted to. I thought, and I still think that there's so many better ways of commerce than the way we were doing it. So for me at the time was, you have all these nefarious, let's call them nefarious, banks and entities who are out there to grab our money, our value, any way they can. That's what their business model really is. Right? I'm paying them to make a transfer, and they're not transferring my value. They're holding it because they want more of it. We made a deal, man. The deal is, I'm giving you X amount of money. I agree to your exchange rate. Send the money out. They don't do it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to create my own money to get out of it, and I think I could be successful doing it. But at the time it was commodities, and when I saw this, to me it's a much better tool, the digital money and the digitalization of commerce, and I love it. It's a game to me. It's it's serious, but it's something that I enjoy doing. So if you can enjoy doing what you're doing, you just keep doing it.
Well, I was going to say, I wanted to say that, definitely a very intriguing discussion, and extremely insightful and inspiring. And a lot more. I'm sure we'll have another one in the future, because this thing of yours is still in the beginning stages.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's so much development, on Item Banc between you and your partner, Virginia. So I was going to say thank you for coming on to Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. We're definitely an entrepreneur, my friend, and definitely you're in the tech, so it fits right in. And please follow us on social media. And as Jordan said, persistence is the key, and just keep innovating. Stay persistent and keep innovating.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech podcast. And if you're joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.